I'm 73 years old. At this age, you've attended enough weddings to know that love is a mystery, and enough funerals to know that life is a vapor. You've spent a lot of time looking at the sky, asking the same questions that people have been asking for thousands of years. And today, I want to talk about something that most people avoid at dinner parties: religion. Now, before you think I'm here to preach to you or tell you that I've found the one and only secret path, let me stop you right there. I'm not a theologian. I'm just a man who has lived 7 decades, made 1,000 mistakes, and spent a lot of nights staring at the ceiling in the dark. For the first 30 years of my life, religion was a rule book. I was raised to believe that God was a celestial accountant. He had a massive ledger, and he was keeping track of every missed prayer, every white lie, and every impure thought. Religion was a fence designed to keep the good people in and the bad people out. I followed the rules because I was afraid. I thought that if I performed the right rituals and said the right words, I'd be protected from the storms of life. I thought faith was a transaction. I give God my obedience, and He gives me a smooth road. But life has a way of tearing up your rulebook. When I was 35, my world fell apart. I won't go into all the details right now, but I lost something very dear to me. I had followed every rule in that book. I had been good. And yet, the storm hit me just as hard as it hit the sinners. I remember sitting in a pews, surrounded by incense and chanting, and feeling absolutely nothing but a cold, hollow silence. I looked at the people around me, performing their rituals with clockwork precision, and I realized that many of them were just as terrified as I was. They were using religion as a shield, a way to hide from the messiness of being human. I walked away for a long time. I became a skeptic. I thought religion was just a crutch for people who couldn't handle the truth of their own insignificance. I saw the wars fought in the name of God, the judgment passed by people who claimed to be saved, and the hypocrisy that rotted the foundations of the institutions I once trusted. I thought I was being brave by rejecting it all. I thought I was enlightened because I didn't need a big sky daddy to tell me how to be a good person. But as the years passed, the silence of my skepticism started to feel just as hollow as the incense of my youth. I realized that in my rush to escape the rules of religion, I had missed the point of spirituality. I had thrown out the baby with the bathwater. I started to notice that even without a church or a temple, I was still searching for something. I was still looking at the stars with a sense of awe that I couldn't explain. I was still moved to tears by a piece of music or the birth of a grandchild. I began to understand that the accountant God I had been running away from wasn't God at all. He was just a projection of human ego and control. I started to ask myself, what if religion isn't about where you go when you die? What if it's about how you show up while you're alive? What if the rituals weren't meant to be magic spells to change the world, but tools to change us? As I moved through my 50s and 60s, I started to look at religion through a different lens. I stopped looking at the labels on the outside of the buildings and started looking at the people on the inside. And more importantly, I started looking at the people who never stepped foot inside a temple at all. You see, one of the biggest lessons 73 years has taught me is this: God, or whatever you choose to call that, great mystery, is far too big to fit into any one building. I've met people who could recite every verse of their holy books, who never missed a service, but who carried hearts full of judgment and ice. And I've met people who called themselves atheists, who lived with such profound kindness and self-sacrifice that they made me wonder if they were the ones who truly understood the divine. I began to realize that the danger of organized religion is when the dogma becomes more important than the person standing in front of you. When we spend more time arguing about who is in and who is out, who is saved and who is damned, we aren't practicing faith. We're just practicing ego. We're using God to justify our own prejudices. At 73, the idea that the creator of this vast 93 billion light-year universe is deeply concerned with the specific way you fold your hands or the language you use to pray, well, it started to seem a bit small. I've come to believe that if there is a divine intelligence, it isn't interested in our labels, it's interested in our hearts. I remember a conversation I had with an old friend of mine, a Buddhist monk. I asked him, "What is the most religious act a person can perform?" I expected him to say something about meditation or enlightenment, but he just smiled and said, "Washing your dishes with a kind heart." That stayed with me for years. It taught me that the sacred isn't something hidden in a mountain or locked in a cathedral. The sacred is right here. It's in the way you listen to your spouse when they've had a hard day. It's in the way you treat the person at the grocery store who is struggling with the bags. It's in the way you care for a dying garden or a stray dog. I stopped looking for God in the extraordinary and started finding Him in the ordinary. I realized that every act of compassion is a prayer. Every moment of true presence is a ritual. When you sit with a friend who is grieving and you don't try to fix them with a Bible verse, but you just stay there, that is a holy act. I've learned that the most religious people I know aren't necessarily the ones with the loudest voices. They are the ones with the quietest hands. They are the ones who don't feel the need to convince you that they are right, because they are too busy making sure you are okay. I spent so much of my youth trying to find the correct religion. I wanted the one that had all the answers, the one that would give me a map to the afterlife. But now I'm much more interested in the questions. I've learned to be comfortable with the "I don't know." In fact, I think "I don't know" is one of the most spiritual statements a human being can make. It's an admission of humility. It's an acknowledgement that we are small and the universe is vast, and that's perfectly okay. Faith, I've found, isn't the absence of doubt. It's the ability to live with doubt and still choose love. It's the decision to believe that despite all the darkness and the pain we see in the world, there is a thread of light that connects us all. And our only job, our only real religious duty, to keep that light burning in ourselves and in each other. As I stand here at 73, looking toward the sunset of my own life, people often ask me, "Are you afraid of what comes next? Are you sure about where you're going?" And my answer is usually a quiet smile. I'm not afraid. And the reason I'm not afraid is because I've stopped trying to bargain for a seat in the afterlife. When I was young, I thought the whole point of religion was to get a golden ticket to heaven. I thought this life was just a waiting room, a testing ground where we had to suffer and perform so we could get to the real life later. But 73 years has taught me that heaven and hell aren't just places we go after we die. They are states of being that we carry within us right now. If you live your life with a heart full of bitterness, judgment, and greed, you don't have to wait for a furnace in the afterlife. You are already in hell. You are burning your own peace every single day. But if you live with kindness, if you learn to forgive, if you find joy in the simple beauty of a sunrise, then you are already in heaven. You have found the kingdom within. I've come to see that the great unknown after death is just that, unknown. And that's okay. I don't need a detailed map anymore. If there is a God who is as loving as the beauty I see in nature, then I can trust that whatever comes next will be handled with grace. And if there is nothing but silence, well, then I want to make sure that the life I lived left a little more light in the world than I found. If I could go back and talk to my 20-year-old self, the one who was so stressed about following the right path, I'd tell him this: stop worrying so much about the who and the how. Start focusing on the what. What are you doing with the love you've been given?